The Monday, April 23rd meeting, 2012. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you please stay standing while I say a prayer? Heavenly Father, sustain us with your bountiful Spirit. We lift our council and staff before you, granting us the courage, the wisdom, and the insight in making decisions that serve the highest good for our citizens. We ask that every thought, word, action come from the truth, which prevails over distortion. We thank you and we glorify the gift of our caring and compassionate citizens who have dedicated thousands of hours of service for the betterment of our city. Place your steadfast care of our public safety and our military families serving throughout the world. In your name we pray. Amen.
Oops, I'm sorry. All right, let's see who's going to talk to us tonight.
All set? As I look on the dais, I see we've all returned to our seats, and so we'll begin. And this evening we do not have any communications, but now is the time for citizens who would like to address the City Council on any non-agenda. We do have one, all right.
Julio Iglesias.
And as Julio comes to the front, I want our audience to know that council may take any one of the following stance. We may respond only to criticism. We may request that staff investigate and report on the matter. And we may request that the matter be scheduled on a future agenda. And as you well know, because you've been before us, but I will repeat it, you are limited to 3 minutes. The yellow light and buzzer will let you know that you have 30 seconds left to speak. Before you begin, please say your name clearly for the record and your address. The time is yours.
Good evening. My name is Julio Iglesias. I live at 2009 North 161st Drive in Goodyear. Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. At the council meeting 2 weeks ago, I stood right here and commented on illegal activity by the city of Goodyear regarding their purposeful destruction of a computer used by former police sergeant David Bryant. In his recently filed lawsuit against Goodyear, Bryant claims that computer contained evidence that would have exonerated him regarding the criminal charges of fraud and theft that Goodyear wrongfully brought against him. I will now read 2 Arizona revised statutes describing the criminal offenses committed by Goodyear applicable to the destruction of that computer. I've edited these statutes for unnecessary content due to time constraints. Number 1, Arizona Revised Statute 13-2809, tampering with physical evidence. A person commits tampering with physical evidence if, with intent that it be rejected or unavailable in an official proceeding which is pending or who knows is about to be instituted, in other words, Bryant's criminal trial, such person destroys, mutilates, alters, conceals, or removes physical evidence with the intent to impair its verity or availability. The evidence in this case was the documented proof in Bryant's computer of hours that he worked that Goodyear claimed that he did not work. Number 2, ARS 13-2407, tampering with a public record. A person commits tampering with a public record if, with the intent to defraud or deceive, such person knowingly destroys, mutilates, removes, or otherwise impairs the availability of any public record. The information in Bryant's computer was a public record until Goodyear suspiciously destroyed it. Both of these criminal offenses are Class 6 felonies. So, I'd like to know which City of Goodyear employee destroyed that computer, who gave the direction and authority to do it, who else had knowledge of these illicit activities, and why was it done in the first place? Madam Mayor and council members, let me be very clear. I am directly accusing one or more City of Goodyear employees of committing multiple felonies here. As a concerned citizen, I demand real answers about this travesty of justice. For tolerance of justice is equal to perpetrating it, especially when you're in a position to rectify it. An old proverb says, there's no shame in not knowing. The real shame lies in not finding out. What will be done about this now that you know? Will the facts be uncovered, or will they be ignored because the truth would be inconvenient for Goodyear? Please consider my comments to be a complaint so that I may get an immediate response from someone. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm just going to have the lawyer say a quick address on this, please.
Madam Mayor, as Mr. Iglesias began tonight, he's referring to a matter that's
I'm sorry,
currently-
we can't hear you, so you're going to have to either.
I'll try, it's on. Having a hard time with microphones tonight. This is a litigation matter, as Mr. Iglesias alluded to at the beginning. Certainly, discovery is ongoing, and we can't comment on litigation at this time. Thank you.
So just to repeat that, our lawyer said this is under litigation, and because of that, we're not allowed to address this in this forum. Thank you. Are there any other cards?
No.
Thank you. Okay, so then let's go to the consent agenda. And before we do this, just kind of an informal, you kind of wonder what the flowers are for. We had balloons, the cake, the pizza. It's my birthday today, and so I had to work on my birthday, and so my counsel was very kind to bring me balloons and gifts and flowers. And so the cake is available when you would like to just come up and help yourself, as well as the pizza. All right, we'll go on to the consent agenda, and I'll ask the city clerk to please read the consent agenda, items A through H by title only.
Item A, approve draft minutes of a regular meeting held on April 9th, 2012. Item B, approve a request from Pacaket Alfred representing Tri-Thai Restaurant LLC for a new Series 12 liquor license number 120799049 for Salad Thai Restaurant located at 432 North Litchfield Road, Suite 304. Item C, approve a request from Peter Katsaros representing El Greco LLC for a new Series 12 liquor license number 120799073 for Dino's Greek and Italian Grill located at 1550 North Dysart Road, Suite B8. Item D, appoint Councilmember Wally Campbell as representative and Councilmember William Stipp as the alternate to the Maricopa County Community Development Advisory Committee, CDAC, for FY 2012-2013. Item F, approve funding in amount not to exceed $50,000 for speed cushions on Central Avenue, Palo Verde Drive, Manzanita Drive, and Via Villa Street in the North Subdivisions neighborhood. Item F, approve a request for a use permit to allow a convenience use Carl's Jr. drive-through restaurant on a 1.68-acre parcel in the Canyon Trails Town Center, a 91-acre commercial center generally located at the northeast corner of Cotton Lane and Yuma Road, subject to stipulations. Item G, adopt Resolution 12-1481, authorizing the mayor to execute an intergovernmental agreement with Arizona Department of Transportation to establish responsibility for funding, purchasing, and installation of fiber optic cable and equipment at 8 intersections in the city of Goodyear and associated maintenance responsibilities. Item H, 1, adopt Resolution 12-1483, declaring as a public record that certain document filed with the city clerk titled Amendment to Chapter 3 of the Goodyear City Code, replacing Article 3-9, which is Percent for Art Program, in its entirety, and H2, adopt Ordinance 12-1256, amending Chapter 3 of the Goodyear City Code by replacing Article 3-9, Percent for Art Program, in its entirety, providing for severability and an effective date.
One thing I have to question, E, you did not read E. Was that taken off?
I don't have an E.
We have an E, funding for the speed cushions for North.
I did read E, I'm sorry.
We didn't hear it. We didn't hear it, so.
Could you read E again, please?
I would
Would
be
you read
happy
E?
to read E again. Approve funding in amount not to exceed $50,000 for speed cushions on Central Avenue, Palo Verde Drive, Manzanita Drive, and Via Villa Street in the North Subdivisions neighborhood.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Does anyone from the public wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Does anyone on the council wish to remove an item from consent agenda? I have some noddings of heads, so let's start to the left. Bill Stipp? Which one?
I'm not sure if, I think we need to remove it. D and E.
Okay, and you couldn't just ask a question?
Well, On my question on D, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but it is very important to me. Councilmember Bill Stipp, I need to have that differentiation. So if it needs
To change William to Bill.
if it needs to change in the ordinance or whatever, we need to.
Can we do that without?
If there's no ordinance, it's just an appointment, so we can change it to Bill.
Okay.
And so from now on, just to make sure that everything that is connected with you is Bill, B-I-L-L,
Correct.
okay? So we won't have that. All right, thank you. What about G?
E was my other one.
Oh, E, okay,
And that one I want to have some discussion on.
okay. Wally,
I'd like to pull H, please, for discussion.
okay. Joanne,
E, F, and G, just questions?
okay, so let's go to E first. The speed cushions.
Do you want me to start, Bill?
Just
Or-
ask the question on that.
I just had a question. I am in favor of this, but was wondering about Via, since we don't have the petitions signed yet, are we just putting this as a placeholder for the budget, or what is the reasoning that this street is part of the discussion?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Luke Albert, City Traffic Engineer. Since we put the COAC
You'll
together,
have to speak louder. Boy, these microphones are not working tonight, so if there's anybody you can say to turn them up.
Good
There you
evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'm Luke Albert, City Traffic Engineer. Since we put the COAC together, we have received the completed petition for Via Street. So we have full approved petitions for all four of the streets. So we'll move forward with all four locations together.
Okay, great, thank you.
So that satisfies E. Nobody
me,
else?
I don't know
Okay,
about
anybody
Bill.
else had anything on E? Bill?
Yeah, I had E as well, and
Right.
that was one of my concerns is is doing it ahead of time. I'm also in favor of the item overall.
Okay, so,
But what I guess I'm questioning the funding mechanism for it. We put this ordinance in place to allow citizens to bring forward the speed cushion issue for everybody. And it would seem that we should have some fund somewhere available to fund these as opposed to it coming out of the
Councilman?
council budget. I can see this becoming a flood of requests that it would drain the small amount that the council initiative budget has. And I realize we're late in the year, but I don't want to set a precedent tonight by just saying we've got a council request to use that funding and then not ever address it again in the future.
Joe?
As I recall, when we had this discussion earlier, we had talked about putting it in that council location, the money. If you think we need another separate one other than that, that'd probably be another discussion. But I do, as I recall, that when we had the original discussion, we were looking for a place to put it because we knew this would possibly come up in the future, and that's where that 250 came into play. So it's in there for that, and it was directly put there as a result of the discussion. So I'm not sure where you would put it unless you create a line item within engineering. I mean, I'm open for it.
Yeah,
but
I'm
I just wanted to
glad
let you
too,
know that
because
the
I thought we had a discussion on that.
I don't recall that discussion, obviously, which is why I'm bringing it up. But and I don't have a problem with this particular expenditure for these particular speed bumps. What I question is 6 months from now, when we're in a new budget year, and somebody else comes to us and says, "Hey, we want to put speed bumps in, and we need $100,000." Where are we going to pay for that? That's ultimately my question.
Of course, I just not sure, in my opinion, that I can tell you where that will come from. And and a lot of our expenditures, we're moving money from here to there where it's allowed. And so you're asking us to pinpoint something, and I'm not sure. Now, I don't mind, in my view, of somehow designating or reasoning why connected with this, but
I just don't want it
I don't want
pinpointed
to
the
delay this
opposite
speed
direction.
bump. I tell you, I don't want to delay this.
I don't want to delay it either. But my point is, I don't want to pinpoint it tonight for every time in the future for it to go. Well, we're just going to go to this place, because there are other council initiatives, the infrastructure that we've talked about and things of that nature that may take precedent. And, you know, we've got a $66 million operating budget. I'm hoping
Okay.
we can find $50,000 somewhere.
Guess only time will
How do we
tell.
solve this?
Yeah, exactly.
How do we solve this?
Mayor, quick question.
Yes, Joe?
Please refresh, Luke, if you would. If I recall correctly, when we had that discussion, there was also a cap on this each year, wasn't there?
Yeah,
That,
Mayor,
I mean, no matter what the request was, we capped it. Is that true?
Mayor, Lord, members of the council, we put in a request for a line item for $50,000 next year. That it'll be a capital improvement program item. It'll be, the plan is for it to be $50,000 next year, and then you know, any funding left over carry forward with them being replenished again to $50,000 in the future years.
Does that work?
That's all I was looking for.
That was simple. Thank you.
I remember.
I don't remember any of that, so I apologize for that.
All right, great. So we have that. What are the other?
I
Joanne?
had F and G.
I'm sorry, Vice Mayor.
The question about F with Carl's Jr. Hey, Steve. I'm assuming that this is kind of one of those things that because of time we needed to relook at it, but are they going to be under construction anytime soon? And if so, have we had discussions of the possible 303 impact potentially? That was my question.
Mayor, council members, the applicant and the developer have indicated that at this time they're ready to move forward. They do have a site plan application in, and at this point staff has delivered first review comments. They're working to turn those back around to us and then start with construction plans.
And I'm happy about that. I think that's great. My concern is this year and a half of construction that we will have with the 303 and the potential of issues, and I just want them to be aware that, you know, this is out of our hands. And so, you know, I just was hoping that, you know, we say all these things about noise and pollution and things like that and potential issues, and just want to make sure that they're under this understanding too.
Mayor, council, yes, they are aware that it's coming.
So that's satisfying to you?
Yes.
Okay, and then we have one more, and I'm thinking.
Oh,
that
I'm sorry, I had G, and then we had H.
Okay, so you had H.
No, I had G.
You have G. Okay.
The IGA with the state of Arizona, just wanted to know, since we'll be taking over maintenance and funding, if there are overruns to this project, who's watching over this of staff, and what annual budget amount will be needed for maintenance if that, well, we know maintenance will occur, but is that a large item? I have no idea what kind of money we're speaking about on maintenance.
Mayor Lord, members of council, I'm Hugh Biak, the Assistant City Traffic Engineer. Regarding the IGA, the funding is $231,000. That's federal CMAQ money, one time, to fund the project. In terms of maintenance, maintenance is it's a very low dollar amount,
Okay.
especially in the near term.
Well, it wasn't in the presentation, so I wasn't sure what it was.
Correct, and this project only covers construction. It would never cover maintenance.
But it did say that if there was overruns to the construction, the city would have to pay for that.
Correct.
So will you be the one watching over that they stay in budget?
Yes, with the city traffic engineer and city engineer, we will ensure this project will not exceed the federal allotment of $231,304.
Great, thank you.
Councilman Gelser?
Will this project complete the interconnect, or is this just putting conduit in the ground? And my next question is more of a follow-up. Will you be able to control these signals from our centralized traffic control once this fiber optic is in and the cameras are in?
Mayor Lord, members of council, the fiber is already in the ground. The what we call the backbone fiber was a project. We installed the fiber in the ground and some conduit roughly 2 years ago. I believe it was January of 2010. This project is merely tying 8 intersections to that fiber optic network. And to follow up to your question also, it will allow us to actually view and control the traffic signal cabinet and controller from the traffic management center.
Well, that'll be really great because some of the traffic engineers that I interact with on a regular basis would like to see some of our signals timed a little bit better.
Understood.
Now, the other item we talked about,
Citizen
Wally
traffic
wanted H pulled off, and I think maybe in this case, we'll go ahead and vote A through G.
Okay.
And so Wally will be pulling H. Okay, so could I hear a motion for items A through G, please?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion by Councilman Loretano and a second by Vice Mayor Osborne. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Osborne.
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilzer.
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp.
Aye.
Mayor Lord.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
All right, so A through G passed, and so presentation on H, please.
Good evening, Mayor and members of Council. Diane Cry, Public Arts Specialist. We're bringing to you this evening changes to the art ordinance. The primary change is to allow members of the Arts and Culture Commission to raise funds to promote the arts in Goodyear.
So the question was from Councilman Campbell.
My concern is regarding this is allowing the members of the commission to go out and solicit money for the arts, performing arts, when we don't have a performing arts center, number one. Number two, the city gives West Valley Arts money to bring the symphony out here to do other items. I don't understand why we cannot fund an arts, performing arts event as a line item in the parks budget. It's so difficult to raise money. I know we're setting a precedent. We're not telling you that we don't support performing arts, but I just, this request is, to me, is coming out of left field. We just recently appointed new members to your committee. Mm-hmm. I personally have not seen how they mesh, nor have I had any feedback on what their plan is. Do they have a direction that they hope to go in? Do they have an idea of what they want to see over and above the 1% that you get from construction costs? And how are you going to develop your time between raising money for performing arts and then soliciting for artists when the funds start becoming available and you're doing public art as well? Okay. I mean, it sounds like it's a very aggressive plan. It's not something that I haven't seen another arts commission be charged with raising money with no oversight from the city. That's my basic concern.
Right. Mayor, members of council, I think that part of the reason is that we've just held a retreat, and at the retreat, especially with the newer members of the Arts and Culture Commission, they've expressed a desire to have different events such as a multicultural arts festival. And currently there is no funding from city for the Multicultural Arts Festival. And so they asked if there was a way to create a city revenue generating fund where they could go out and solicit for specific events and programs. This would not be in conflict with other programs. The money that's raised for the Percent for Art ordinance goes directly to public art and cannot be used for the performing arts. So this would in effect allow them to raise money to have some performing arts events that they've identified through their retreat recently.
Yes, Joe, I'm going to ask the lawyer something. Am I better just to take a motion and then put this into more discussion, or what happens?
So this would have been the presentation. Yeah, if you want to make a motion and do council discussion.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do, because I keep seeing people raise their hands, and so I think I would like to have that. So could I hear a motion, please, and a second?
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Gelzer and a second by Councilman Stipp. Roll call. No.
No.
Open for discussion. Whoops. Sorry, Wally. Okay, first person. Joe?
No, I'll talk again in a minute.
Councilman Pizzillo.
Just a quick question.
Oop, turn it on.
On the mechanics, how is this going to work the money gets collected, does it go through the finance department? Are you setting up a 501c and the money into a separate account?
It's
What's the
not-
mechanics of that?
Councilman Pizzillo, it's not going to be a 501c3. It will be a city fund, a dedicated account just for the arts. It will be held in with the city.
So the finance department, I assume, has gone ahead and set up account for tracking this?
Correct?
I don't see how
Yes,
they can do
they
it.
will.
They will, okay. Second question, just to follow up on Councilmember Campbell's question. There's a reason why, obviously, you're coming up and bringing this before us. So what was the overall driving theme for it, and then ultimately the goal of that you want to accomplish?
The driving theme was that they wanted to really expand the arts programmings and hold arts events that were specific to the city of Goodyear, that would be through the Parks and Recreation Department. During the retreat, they did identify some things they wanted to do. They wanted to have storefront galleries, which are known as pop-up galleries, which requires minimal amount of funding. They wanted to have a multicultural arts festival, which would require more funding. And they felt that they were so interested and invested in these projects that they wanted to go out and raise funds for them.
So I assume they have a plan on how they're going to go about raising these funds.
We have a committee, and the committee will be meeting shortly, and we've identified people who will take on different subcommittees within the Multicultural Arts Festival specifically.
Councilwoman Loretano.
I just want to say I think that's a lot of initiative that your committee has, and especially in these times. I know that's one thing we've heard from a lot of people is, unfortunately, that the arts are getting cut because of that, and if they're willing to go do it, the only thing I would ask is make sure that there's a lot of city oversight, because when you have other people handling money and that you work very closely with finance to make sure all the accounting, I think what Councilman Pizzillo is concerned about, that all the accounting, dot the I's, cross the T's, redundancy, it just work really closely with the finance department, have your committee learn about that.
Absolutely.
The unfun part of collecting, but I do applaud the initiative.
Councilman Stipp.
I always try to get an example for myself. So, is the type of event I hear multicultural event, and that I think I get. Is it also for things like the celebration we had of Chinese New Year? Is that that was performance art? At least I think. Was that a performing arts kind of thing that this commission is suggesting as
That
well?
was mayor initiated.
Well, I know that was mayor initiated, but is that kind of an event?
What
we
they're
would consider
anticipating
performing?
is celebrating several different cultures, either at the ballpark or a community park. They're going to start off rather small, and it would include foods from various cultures, the visual arts, and the performing arts.
So is that dragon dance that we saw,
That could be part of it.
could that be considered a
Certainly.
performing
I'm
art?
not taking ownership to it, so
No, I'm not
chair.
taking. No, I'm not suggesting that. But I'm just trying to draw a parallel because I'm not big in the arts.
Okay. Vice Mayor Osborne.
Well, I think this is fantastic. The city can't fund all the things that the world wants, and the arts deserve it, and I think it's great that they want to go out there and raise the money. This is what citizens do, and this is wonderful. I think that as long as, just like Sherry said, is the oversight over the money, and there's a good treasurer, and, Larry's watching over it, I say go for it, Find us those events and those cultural outlets, and I think it's great.
Councilman Gelzer.
I think this is an excellent idea, and I just want to applaud you. I've gone to several of the Art Commission meetings, and I've seen the enthusiasm of the new commissioners. One of the things that I have talked with privately with the city manager is a way that we can leverage the funds that you raise. And I hope that in the future we can bring back some kind of policy that, if you have a budget on an event and you can raise a third or half of it, that the city can find the other money to be able to do this. It makes it more involved for the citizens, and it gives the Art Commission the ability to go to donors and say, okay, if you help us, then the city will, kick in their share. I'm all for this. I think this is a great thing. I don't want to micromanage it. I want the Art Commission to run with the ball.
I guess I can speak now. Okay.
My concern was, because I'm on the Centennial Committee and we're trying to raise money to refurbish the train station, we're going to set up a foundation made up of residents and have it as a 501(c), which makes a clean way to raise your money. I'm just a little hesitant, and my concern is that when you go out to raise money, you're not a 501(c), so it's going to be difficult, which I can appreciate. And then also, if the city wants to put on a big performing arts center, we need to find the money to do it. It's as simple as that. It can be a line item in the Parks Department. If we get this cultural event off the ground, which we're going to meet in May, to start the ball on it, it ought to be something that's yearly and it's funded. However, that being said, I know it's going to be fun to raise the money, and it's going to be a real challenge. And as long as the city has a line item, every penny is accounted for, and we know that Larry will watch the money, huh, Larry? I just don't know how we can legally do it, but apparently we can do it and put a line item in and then raise money and stick it in for that. So that was my concern. But I would like the commission to talk to the council a little bit more on what they're trying to do and bring us into the fold, because we are ultimately responsible for what goes on in this city. And I certainly, I just certainly think we ought to know about it.
Larry, could you come out and just address something like this that kind of gives us a little insight on, what can be done? And I always think that if, I've often thought even the train station for the Centennial, how we've been doing, and that it would be nice to have it on our website. Just give the information and the, of what has been collected and spent and so forth, so people can have an idea, and it just gives people the opportunity to also donate if they would like to for that cause. But I'm turning it over to you.
Okay, Mayor Lord, Councilmember Campbell, I will try to keep this simple. What we like to do in finance with these types of activities is put them in what is called a special revenue fund. That fund can only be used for the purpose that the money comes in for. Other examples of that, larger examples of that, for example, are the Highway User Revenue Fund. It's a dedicated tax. This money would be dedicated and accounted for. And the reason we like to do that, there's one other mechanism in governmental accounting that could be used, which is called an agency account, where it isn't really our money, we're holding it for someone else. But this is a city-sponsored commission. You appointed this commission. So I think that there is an accountability requirement for those expenditures that should show that we raised X dollars, and that here is how those dollars were spent at the end of that year. Here's how much is left that's available for the following year. I hope they're very successful, because we really, don't like these if they're, $50 funds and that's where they end up. So we like to see them quite successful, so there's something to track.
Do we do that with the Centennial?
No, not at this time. That is not set up that way.
And is there a reason why we didn't? Did we appoint that committee through the city?
But there was no earmarked money for the Centennial.
Okay.
And that's what we're talking about is the money that gets earmarked through the fundraising.
Okay, since we have the performance.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. All right, great. Any other questions?
I have one question.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
It's actually, Mr. Dahlke, over the years that I've been on council and planning and zoning and just been involved with the city, many times this situation has been raised. And I've heard that other cities will actually open up some kind of 501c3 that ends up being an area where all these different avenues are aligned together under one, kind of nonprofit in a sense. And I want to say Tempe has something like that. And I mean, we have, we were trying to raise money for Loma Linda Park, obviously the arts, the Centennial. There's been numerous things over the year. And people have asked me many times, why doesn't the city have some kind of nonprofit? And I don't know that it's actually called a 501c3. Maybe there's a different type of entity, but it was all for city type of fundraising in that sense. So if that may be something that, direction that you can tell us if you've heard of that, but I'm almost positive it was Tempe has something like that.
Mayor and Councilmember Osborne, what I would like to do is have us look specifically what Tempe's done. I know that they have like downtown merchants, they have a variety of nonprofits. I'm not sure how that spills into the local government side. Definitely worth us checking out, coming up with ideas to see how we might make that easier. If in fact we have several initiatives by citizens that have ended up being on commission or appointed by council, see what the opportunities are there. Does it need to be 501c3? What are the benefits of it going through city coffers? What are the challenges with that? So I think that there is more to this. We would like to look at the details, and we can certainly bring back what we're finding.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
And maybe we could promote business contributing art features along with that. I'm going to just put that plug one more time in here. I may do that a number of times throughout the year, but hopefully someone will hear me outside of us, the council, and the staff.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I guess we're ready to vote on this. So could I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Gelzer?
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Osborne?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Well, I want to thank staff, council right now for your discussion. Wally, thank you for bringing it up. It was a discussion that needed to take place. I think it answered a lot of questions, and I see happy faces to the left of me now, a little more satisfied, right when he's always smiling. So we're all set. So what we're going to now is go down to the one business item. We will be receiving a presentation of the general plan existing conditions report by ASU, and no action is needed on this.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. I'm pleased to introduce tonight's presentation. We've been very fortunate to be able to take advantage of an opportunity to work with Dr. Juchul Kim and his graduate level planning capstone studio. The students are sitting right behind me who are part of this studio, and they've been working very hard over the last semester creating an existing conditions report in preparation of the general plan update. This report is going to be very helpful to us. It'll help the general plan committee use the analysis and information in there to inform their decisions. Some of the data might also make it into the general plan itself. You might remember that with the 2003 general plan, we actually had a professional consultant create this existing condition report, and now we've been able to use the services of these graduate level students to create this report, and they've done an outstanding job. Tonight's presentation is kind of a preliminary report on this information, and then afterwards they're going to go and finish up the report, and once that's finalized, we will get a copy of that report to each of you, as well as the presentation they're giving tonight. We'll also make that available on our website so that the public has access to it. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Melissa McLaughlin and Robin Benning, who are going to be presenting on behalf of the group. And just as a side note, Robin Benning is a council member at Queen Creek, so he gets to experience the other side of the dais.
Nice.
So be kind. Be kind.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members, and thank you for blowing my cover, Katie. Tonight, as Katie expressed, the presentation you're about to see is the existing conditions report for the City of Goodyear as a lead up to the process of rewriting the general plan for 2025. The report will describe the elements of the general plan which are required to be addressed under the Growing Smarter legislation. This presentation was prepared by students from Arizona State's School of Geographical Sciences and Urban Planning, the Master of Urban and Environmental Planning Capstone Studio for spring of 2012. A final written report is being prepared and will be delivered to you post haste. After each section, we'll be pausing briefly to allow you to comment or ask questions. So without further ado, I'll turn the microphone over to Melissa.
Thank you, Robin. All right, first we're going to look at demographics. Between 2000 and 2010, total population of Goodyear had increased by 245%. Goodyear saw the most significant change in proportion in the 15 to 19-year age group from 5% to 7.4%. The Goodyear age distribution is trending to a younger population. We can see that the median age in Goodyear as of 2010 has decreased to 34.9 years old. Between the 2000 and 2010 census, the proportion of minority population increased slightly. The proportion of Goodyear residents of Asian and African American background changed from 1.7 to 4.3% and from 5.2 to 6.7% respectively. This graph illustrates the estimated growth of Goodyear compared to surrounding cities as of 2001. Goodyear population increased at a consistent rate through 2005, slowing to a decade low of 4% growth in 2009. However, Goodyear did not experience negative growth during this time, as was the case in some neighboring communities. During the decade of 2000 to 2010, the proportion of Goodyear residents who attained some college and above increased remarkably. The most significant increase was in bachelor's degrees from 7.4% in 2000 to 18.5% in 2010. The city of Goodyear stands out among the neighboring communities for its increase in attainment of higher education. As of 2010, the median household income in Goodyear was $76,221. Goodyear has the highest median household income in the West Valley and is higher than the state and the county. It also has the 6th highest median household income in Maricopa County. The graph above shows us the Goodyear median price of new homes compared to resales. The graph below shows us the volume of new home sales contrasted against resales. Goodyear, like the rest of the valley, experienced a housing boom in the first half of the last decade. After reaching peak prices for new home sales in 2006, prices fell steadily until 2010. In 2011, prices rose again. Resale prices peaked in 2006, but since then have continued to decline. The table above shows the number of foreclosures in Goodyear has dropped by 25% from 2009 to 2011, whereas Maricopa County declined 14%. The graph below illustrates Goodyear foreclosures and new home sales as a percentage of Maricopa County. This table shows the total retail space available within Goodyear by location. The largest space north of I-10 is the Palm Valley Cornerstone Center. The largest space south of I-10 is the Canyon Trails Town Center. And the largest space south of the Gila River is Mountain Ranch Marketplace at Estrella. Any questions or comments?
Questions from council or comments?
Interesting information.
Councilman Gelzer, you look like you had one, no?
No, 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 no. I'm
No,
just,
but can
I'm
we-
just
can we get
pleased.
this information?
This
Yeah.
is great.
I
Dem-
tell you,
this
you
is-
went through those slides quickly, and I would we'd like another opportunity to do that. Those were pretty outstanding, and I think the bachelor degree increase is incredible, especially during this time. And so, and of course, I think I also the highest income, median income of the surrounding areas, which is, you can tell the quality, you know, I just see the people that did their bachelor degrees, and so those are the people that are earning the higher wages. So I guess that proves we need to bring more universities in here, don't we? Any other comment?
We need to send this to West Corps.
There you go.
You know, that's an excellent
That is
idea.
a great idea.
That chart right there, could we possibly do that?
Overnight?
I'm not, no, that might be a side joke up here, but hey, let's do it.
Mayor, specifically to that, the West Corps has asked that as we get information, certainly they do their own market research, but they've asked would we come up with our own or have an ability to have access to
But I
information.
bet they don't have all these
Share it
wonderful,
with them.
intelligent people sitting out here. How many are in your group? And would you please stand, all the people that are involved that are
We
here
have
with
18
you tonight?
students this semester.
18. Very good.
And if you have their names, you feel free to tell us what
We've
their
actually got a
names.
slide at the end that lists
Okay,
everybody.
well, sit back
so-
down. You're going to do it again. Sorry for interrupting you like that. But, you know, it's always something good like this, it's worth repeating. So
You
go
can
ahead.
tell Wall Street too. That would be the other.
Go ahead.
Okay. We will move on to housing next. Goodyear's housing units increased 350% over the decade. Goodyear's percent increase in housing units over the decade was greater than both Peoria and Avondale. Goodyear's increase was also higher than the county's and the state's increase. There has been a steady increase in housing units over the decade for the city of Goodyear. In 2010, there were nearly 3 times more housing units as those in 2001. For 2010, Goodyear had a higher owner occupancy rate than all of the other cities examined here, but a relatively low renter occupancy rate, particularly compared to the state and the county. It is clear that Goodyear has very little older housing. Only 8% of its homes were built before 1990. The bulk of Goodyear's housing was constructed from 2000 forward. Goodyear has nearly the same trend as the other West Valley cities examined here over the decade. Peoria peaked higher than Goodyear, but Goodyear had higher median home prices throughout the decade than Surprise, Avondale, and the county. This table shows monthly housing costs as a percentage of income for households with mortgages. Approximately 26% of households with mortgages spend less than 20% of their income on housing costs. On the other end of the spectrum, approximately 26% of households with mortgages spend 35% or more of their income on housing costs. This group would be considered cost-burdened, according to the convention evolved from the United States National Housing Act of 1937, where spending 30% of income on housing costs indicates a cost burden. This chart looks at households without mortgages, which includes both renters and households who have paid their mortgage in full. For households without mortgages, 55% spend less than 10% of their income on household costs. 84% of households without mortgages spend less than 15% of their income on housing costs. Only about 8% of households without mortgages are considered cost-burdened. The following figure shows housing affordability for the city of Goodyear and Maricopa County. The affordability index value of 100 is seen as affordable. A value above 100 is very affordable, and a value below 100 is not affordable. Here we can see that Goodyear was more affordable than the county throughout the decade. In 2006, neither Goodyear nor the county were considered affordable, but of course in 2010, both were considered very affordable. Affordability is important because if housing costs align well with income, residents have more expendable income to spend, and this lets prospective retailers see the city as a more attractive place to do business. All of the cities have had a similar trend in housing affordability. All were not affordable in 2006, and in 2010, all were very affordable. Of the 4 West Valley cities examined here, Goodyear is the second most affordable after Avondale, according to the most recent data available from 2010. Goodyear, compared to Chandler, Tempe, and Scottsdale, has always been and continues to be the most affordable over the last decade.
I'll take that.
Comments or questions?
Comments from council? Councilman Pizzillo?
On the affordability issue, prices have come down, so, I mean, intuitively, they would be more affordable. I guess the question I have is, did you take a look at the ones that are sitting in those houses that are maybe upside down $150,000? From them, they're still making those higher mortgage payments because they can't get out to buy or into something that's more affordable because of the drop in prices. So I guess my question is on the affordability, it's those that want to purchase now that aren't tied into something else, or you kind of see where I'm kind of going with
Yeah, that's
those
a
that
good
may be
question. I'm actually going to refer you to one of my classmates who works
Okay.
specifically on this section.
Okay. Who's drawing the short straw?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Lord, and council members. I don't believe we addressed that issue. I think Katie might be able to provide some more information on that.
So Katie's got it.
Very well done.
He's ready to be a planner. I
It's
think
always Katie's fault.
what points at that is that slide that had the percent of income for the mortgage. That gold one right there, those people in the 35% or more, that's probably much larger than if we looked at the same thing in 2006, because that's, you know, when you have 35% of your income going to housing costs, that means it's unaffordable, and that's a problem. So what that's telling me is those are people who one of the people in the house lost a job or significantly reduced their income. And so my guess is once we climb out of this recession, we're going to see that category go way down. So to me, that's the story that this slide is telling, is capturing those people who are in that situation.
So the ones that are sitting on the ones upside down and are still making the mortgage payments, they're somewhere in the upper end there, more than likely?
Yeah, more than likely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I have a question. Katie, we're comparing 2000 and 2010 census data to get our, basically to show where we actually are. Is there any way that you can extrapolate or track this data forward so that we have basically 2012 data, or utilizing the additional statistics that Maricopa County puts out for us, so that we can, continue the trend lines?
Thank you, Mayor, Council Member. We will certainly do that. Now that we have the American Community Survey that produces data each year, we're going to be able to get this data every single year rather than every 10 years. So we're hoping that this report that, these students have done all the hard work of creating the foundation, but going forward, we can update this each year for you guys.
When will the demographic data of this American, I'm sorry, you gave me the title and they've changed it, and the long form data that now comes out once a year, when will that start showing up? Do we have 2011 data yet for that, what I would call the long form questionnaire?
Thank you, Mayor, Council Member. We have 2010 data that was released last year in December. So this year in November, December, they should release 2011 data, and I would expect that trend to continue.
So next winter of 2012 or 2013, we should be able to make our first projection past the 2010 census based on the incremental data that we have. Is that
That's
good?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to economic development. In the city of Goodyear, the vacancy rate for retail and industrial is consistent with that of the county. However, the vacancy rates for office space are slightly better than the county vacancy rates. This table shows the top 27 private employers in Goodyear. Over half of the top employers deal in manufacturing and distribution of goods. This may indicate Goodyear is a positive location in regards to meeting companies' transportation needs. In comparison to other West Valley cities, the number of establishments by sector in Goodyear is relatively comparable to its peers, though the construction sector is slightly less in proportion. This slide is a visualization of the labor force and indicating where people live in relation to their employment within Goodyear. The inflow of people who live elsewhere and work in Goodyear is 11,333 people. The outflow of people who live in Goodyear and work elsewhere is 22,417 people. There are 1,799 people who live and work in Goodyear. This table presents income levels for the three groups shown in the previous slide. Jobs filled by workers who do not live in Goodyear tend to have a lower earning potential. Residents of Goodyear who also work in Goodyear tend to have slightly higher earning potential. Goodyear residents working elsewhere show the highest earning potential of the three groups. This table illustrates jobs available in the city of Goodyear. 2/3 of the available jobs are in manufacturing, retail, accommodation, and health and social services. The table above shows us the jobs to population ratio. In general, in order to be a self-sustaining community, the planning standard for a balanced jobs to population ratio is 0.65. City of Goodyear is currently at 0.2. As an example, the City of Scottsdale is the only comparison city that comes close to the planning standard. The table below shows us the jobs to housing ratio. Jobs to housing balance is a planning tool that local governments can use to achieve the appropriate number of jobs and housing units in a jurisdiction. Recommended jobs to housing ratio is 1.5. City of Goodyear is currently at 0.52. Of the comparison cities, the City of Scottsdale comes closest to the planning standard at 1.23. This slide shows the Goodyear labor force, the number of unemployed, and the unemployment rate over the past decade. The unemployment rate has significantly increased since 2009.
Can I stop you right there? Here's that unemployment rate again. It's very interesting because this even varies from the formula they used for all of us that we repeated during the downturn was like we were at 5 or 5.8 or 3 or something like that. Then we just got a new report and it was 9. What was? Does anybody remember the number?
It was
8 something.
Yeah.
And that was supposed to be the new calculations. And now we're looking at a 9.2. It gets very confusing as to.
And it's getting worse instead of better.
This is 11, remember? She's got 11.
Still.
2011, yes.
Yeah.
But again, 2010 was 7. I mean, it would just be interesting to somehow find out how many calculations in the state and in the cities and in the counties. And
Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, these numbers do match up with the numbers you recently received. That 8.6% was 2012, so we're seeing it go down now. Part of the reason 2010, it went up from 2011 to 2010 is because of the census hiring. When they hired all those workers to conduct the census, it made a significant and measurable dent in the unemployment rate. And so it didn't necessarily, if you kind of took those census workers out of the equation, you'd see a smoother line, if you understand what I'm saying. So they kind of, temporarily decrease the unemployment rate. So it isn't necessarily fully fair to say it's, if you're looking at permanent jobs, that it might have kind of stayed more the same between 2009 and 2011. But we have seen those preliminary 2012 numbers at 8.6, so it looks like things are getting better.
Thank you, and thank you, Alami, for interrupting. Yes, Bill. Councilman Stitt.
Katie, as long as you're addressing that. These unemployment numbers, I know, have been a moving target at best because of the underemployed, the people who their benefits have run out and they're no longer even being counted as being unemployed. There's so many variables, it's very hard to track this down. Am I reading all of this stuff correctly?
Thank you, Mayor. Council member, that's absolutely right. And that's part of the reason I think you guys were given numbers and then the state completely redid their methodology for how they track this because it is so hard to track it and they're trying to continually improve how they do that. So you're right, it's difficult to grasp.
Okay, thanks.
So the best thing is don't use that.
It's just a rough
Gotcha.
telling us a trend.
Best thing is
Any other
going
questions?
down. It's going
Yes.
in the right direction.
Yes, it's going down.
Please proceed. Thank you.
Figure 4.6 on the left shows us retail sales in thousands per city, and figure 4.7 on the right shows us retail sales per capita. This map shows there is 1 proposed and 2 existing foreign trade zones. Foreign trade zones have been designated in each of these corridors to allow for the import and export of goods of global companies to receive tax incentives. Combined, the 3 corridors account for the majority of square footage for warehousing, office space, and manufacturing and light industrial at present. The Phoenix Goodyear Airport is estimated to contribute almost 2,500 jobs, over $100 million in wages, and almost $400 million to the economy statewide. The direct impacts without using the multiplier effect are approximately 1,100 in employment, $51.8 million in payroll, and $188.5 million in sales. Phoenix Goodyear ranks higher than Phoenix Mesa Gateway and Scottsdale Airport. The City of Phoenix operates the Phoenix Goodyear Airport in Goodyear. This table shows the airport potential for different areas of growth at Phoenix Goodyear Airport and indicates there is a high growth potential based on existing services for expansion, economic potential, businesses served, and population served. Any additional questions?
Questions? No, go ahead, proceed.
We'll move on to land use. These charts show the 2003 and 2012 planned land use categories by share of total land use. The support category includes designations such as open space, roads, and parks. In 2012, we see the inclusion of mixed use, which is a change from 2003. Here we see a comparison of the existing land use of Goodyear to the surrounding cities of Avondale, Buckeye, and Peoria. They are all relatively similar, with the exception that Avondale has more land dedicated to support and Peoria has less agricultural land.
Yes, Councilman Stipp.
What is support?
Support includes things such as open space, roads, and parks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next slide. Oh, okay. Additionally, we have compared Goodyear to Surprise, Tempe, and Scottsdale. The closest similarities are between Goodyear, Scottsdale, and Tempe in that support category again.
I have a question.
Sure.
Katie, I have been told that I thought Goodyear has only developed 10% of our land.
Thank you, Mayor, Council Member. That's correct.
So if I add all that
I'm
up, is that
looking.
100%?
Yeah, I think that, do you know the answer? Well, this is existing land use categories, and I believe it might be, one is the agriculture could possibly be included in that not built out category. And we also don't always include support when we're looking at build out, like those would kind of be taken out of the equation, if you understand. So I don't think it's as easy as adding up those, but you are correct. Our build out projection is in the 625,000 range, and we have 68,000 residents.
Okay, well, if you're just looking at for Goodyear and Surprise, and it shows Surprise has 71% vacant, and Goodyear only has 47%, it would make you think that Goodyear doesn't have that much left, when in fact, I think maybe we have a whole bunch left to do.
Thank you for that comment. We'll look, I think the students will look into that.
Okay, we'll adjust the
And more
figures.
specific than whole bunch?
Please, yes.
Mayor, Katie,
Councilman Stipp.
before you sit down, but theoretically, if we have the 6% residential and 3% employment, that's 9. That's almost the 10%. I mean, that's effectively what we really have developed, if I'm reading this.
Thank you,
Right.
Council Member. I think that might be a closer way to look at it as the developed is the 6 plus 3.
Yeah, so maybe even defining what quote-unquote vacant is may be very helpful.
Okay, thank you for the suggestion.
Looking next at land ownership composition, we can see that ownership in Goodyear is comprised primarily of privately owned land, followed by Bureau of Land Management, state trust land, and county parks and recreation. Here we see the annexation history of the city of Goodyear. Since 1964, the city has continued to expand, primarily growing southward. As an overview, on the left we see all of the planned land uses within the Goodyear planning area, and on the right we see all of the zoning districts within the Goodyear city limits. This chart is from the general plan update, and it details the correlation between planned land use designations and existing zoning districts. For example, we can see that community commercial land use corresponds to commercial office and neighborhood commercial zoning. We utilize this chart in determining where discrepancies exist between the planned land use and zoning. To identify parcels with conflicting land use and zoning designations, we use GIS to first query parcels of a specific land use designation and then removed all parcels with the appropriate zoning. What we are left with is all parcels that have a conflict between their planned land use and zoning. This map identifies community commercial land use and commercial office and neighborhood commercial zoning as an example. The highlighted parcels are conflicts in the north section of the city. As an example, a conflict can be seen in this parcel located along McDowell Road at Cotton Lane. It is designated as community commercial land use, but is zoned agriculture and general commercial. Conflicts such as these will need to be investigated further to reconcile the land use and zoning. This process was completed for all planned land use designations and their corresponding zoning districts. The remainder of the maps will be found in the written report. Here we see a compilation of all zoning conflicts for every single land use, as well as all areas zoned as planned area developments, or PADs. Because the PAD designation allows flexibility in land use, it was important to remove these parcels from the conflicts for a more accurate depiction of discrepancies. This map illustrates in blue the total portion of all zoning districts that are currently classified as PADs. We can see that they currently account for 47% of total zoning designations. After removing the conflict parcels that are currently zoned PAD, what we are left with is this map, which illustrates the extent of parcels with a conflict between their land use, planned land use, and zoning. These two tables represent the land uses which are prohibited within the accident potential zones, or APZs, and the noise contour zones in relation to the City of Goodyear and Luke Air Force Base according to state and federal regulations. This map shows the north section of the City of Goodyear, where the APZs and noise contour zones cross existing land uses within the city. This map shows the only area of the City of Goodyear where there are prohibited existing land uses. These land uses included in the map are single-family low residential, single-family medium-density residential, single-family high-density residential, and possibly retail low, depending on the establishments in the development. Any additional questions or comments?
Or questions? Councilman Gelser?
This is, as a professional geographer and somebody who did GIS in real life, this is wonderful. I think this is some of the best analysis that I've seen, presented, and I want to commend all of you for doing what you did, but especially the people who did the GIS analysis. This is good stuff.
I think the conflict situation is going to be very helpful, and I appreciate that. And again, I'll say I hope we're getting a copy of this whole presentation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other comments on this one? Thank you.
We'll move on to circulation. There are a total of 9 roadway classifications for the City of Goodyear. The following table displays only high-capacity roadways and illustrates that arterial makes up the highest percentage. When all proposed roadways are fully built out, there will be a total of 394.2 miles of roadway. This table illustrates a portion of the new roadway classification matrix that has been created for the existing conditions report. Its purpose is to help visualize what each roadway classification looks like, along with the corresponding general plan description. The full table in the report has pictures and description for each classification type. There are numerous regional transportation plans within the Maricopa County region. Figure 6.1 is the Hidden Valley Plan and shows the planned Loop 303 extension and the Hassayampa Freeway. Figure 6.2 shows the Phoenix-Tucson I-10 bypass. Figure 6.3 shows the Canamex I-11 corridor. And Figure 6.4 is the SR-30, formerly known as the SR-801 corridor or alignment study. It is intended to provide congestion relief for the I-10. The 2003 MAG Regional Transportation Plan was recently updated in 2010. The I-10 widening and SR-303 north of the I-10 are part of the current Phase 2 from 2011 to 2015 and future Phase 3 from 2016 to 2020. The portion of SR-303 south of the I-10 will be completed in Phase 5 from 2026 to 2031. According to the 2010 MAG Regional Transit Framework, the main challenges for the City of Goodyear include low connectivity and ridership and funding. Goodyear is affected by several existing commuter and light rail plans. Figure 6.5 shows the Yuma West Commuter Rail Plan, which would be the first commuter rail line in the valley. A consideration is that the Union Pacific Railroad has not yet agreed with the plan. Figure 6.6 shows the Phoenix West Light Rail extension along the I-10, which will stop at 79th Avenue and would require a BRT connection to fully service Goodyear. Existing transit service in Goodyear consists of 2 local routes, 2 express routes, 1 regional connector route, 2 paratransit services, and 1 park and ride facility. Planned transit service for Goodyear includes the addition of 4 express routes and 7 supergrid routes. A recommendation for a local circulator service was also identified based on surrounding peer cities. The proposed Goodyear circulator would provide 4 routes within the city. Between October 2010 and February 2011, Valley Metro conducted a transit onboard survey. 100 bus routes and all light rail stations were included in this survey. 45 Goodyear residents responded. This table shows the type of transit routes used by the survey respondents. More than half of the Goodyear respondents used the local routes. Other West Valley cities varied between 27 and 81% for local routes. Express routes was the second most popular route type, with 20% of Goodyear residents using it. This map shows the destination location for Goodyear residents who took transit. The most popular destinations include ASU, downtown Phoenix, Glendale, and the northeast corner of Goodyear, where the park and ride is located. This table shows how respondents would make their trip if transit service was not available, and also indicates how important transit is for the city. 20% of Goodyear resident riders said they would not be able to make the trip at all if there was no transit service, and 31% would turn to a car and drive individually. The present bicycle network in Goodyear contains a large amount of bike lanes that are comparable to other valley cities such as Peoria and Scottsdale. This map illustrates the present non-motorized network in the city of Goodyear. Bike lanes make up the majority of the network, with paved and unpaved multi-use paths coming in second. Bike routes make up only a small portion of the non-motorized network. Connectivity is still a concern on several arterial streets and with the southern portion of the city. A lack of connection between the northern and southern portion of the city can be seen around the Gila River area. As seen in the previous map, multi-use trails are scarce in the city. However, there are many trailheads in the Estrella community which represent positive recreational attractions for future development. The Phoenix Goodyear Airport was originally designed for more activity than exists currently. There is currently no formal noise abatement program, and the noise contour map was designed for 300,000 total annual operations, while there are presently less than 200,000 total annual operations. With over 18,000 flights annually, surrounding land use and zoning are significantly impacted by Luke Air Force Base. The base supports a large military population of employees, families, and retirees, and is estimated to contribute over $2.1 billion to the local economy. Future plans by the Air Force for testing the F-35 jet will play a key role in ensuring the vitality of this installation. And questions or comments?
Councilman Campbell?
Thank you. I have 2 questions. The first question, on your slide where you were talking about we would have 300 and something miles of freeway, did you take into consideration the Mobile area, whoever worked on that slide?
I'm going to pass you up to Joe.
We'll try to ask every one of y'all a question if you just wait long enough.
Thank you for your question, Honorable Council Member Campbell. Your question was if it considered highways?
Yes, for Mobile, because we don't have any way to get there now, direct. And I'm wondering, is that included in your 300?
The southern portion. Okay,
Right,
I understand. From what I understood from my analysis is that that total number came from your previous general plan, actually, and it gave, this was the total when we added the proposed ones, but I'm not sure if this is only high-capacity roadways. I'm not sure if it includes the Mobile. It didn't specifically say.
Okay.
So,
Katie, what do you think?
Maybe Katie knows.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor and Council Member. It includes everything that is on the general plan circulation plan. That was updated just a couple years ago, and so we did include that Sonoran Parkway.
Okay, good.
That goes down to Mobile, so that's included in the Parkway.
Okay.
And then the Loop 303 is also included, going
Great.
all the way down to 238.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
My second question, and then I'll be done. On the slide about the airport, the Phoenix Airport. I mean, I'm sorry, the Goodyear Phoenix Airport. Right, stop, back, stop. Perfect. Ooh, thank you very much. When you said that only 188,015 in 2007, don't you have any more up-to-date information than 07? Because our council just had a wonderful presentation by Joe Husbands, who's the manager of the airport, and I thought that the takeoffs and landings were around 225,000, 230,000 a year.
I'm going to give you a chance to talk to one more student.
Okay, great. Okay, who's next? Oh, thank you very much. I'm just curious to find out if you were able to get up-to-date information.
Thank you, Councilmember Campbell. My name is Tim McLuhan. No, I did not have an opportunity to look at all of the airport data.
Okay.
The circulation element is pretty much second to land use, so there was a lot of information in there to go through. So
All right.
Unfortunately, we didn't have that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's it. But it's higher.
Questions? Councilman Stipp?
Can you go back to the bus slide, please? Yes, that one.
Oh, the next one.
I think it's the next one. That
The
one.
onboard survey results?
Yeah. I don't want to get too specific, but since this is a great learning opportunity, you talked about 20% of the residents using the express bus. Or I'm sorry, 20% of the residents could not make the trip without the bus. I could not make this trip as 20%.
Okay.
And yeah, you had said 20% of the residents, and it's respondents to the survey. And since there's only 45, that would only be 9 people. So I just want to. No, I understand. And so the whole learning experience, I just want to make sure that if we're going to use this data for general plan purposes, et cetera, that we have to keep in mind we only talk to 45 people who use this particular bus service when we're making our decisions on what's going into the general plan, et cetera. I didn't mean to call you out in front of everybody, but it's a great learning opportunity to go through it all.
Thank you. Ready? Okay. I'm going to pass it back to Robin now, and he's going to take the remainder of the presentation.
Thank you, Melissa. Municipal buildings provide office and meeting space for the city of Goodyear. The buildings are designed for space efficiency and economy of energy usage. The space needs of the library facilities for the city of Goodyear are based on a level of service as dictated by the American Library Association and the International Federation of Library Associations. The Maricopa County Library District administers the library system for the city of Goodyear. Goodyear's branch library is smaller and contains fewer resources than what is recommended. However, it does circulate a proportionally higher number of resources than the other libraries in the county system. In addition to the 3 county libraries in and around Goodyear, there are also 2 libraries in Avondale, which are available for Goodyear residents' use. This chart shows the level of service requirements for acreage of different parks and park categories. This number is augmented by privately held HOA or homeowner association parks, which are not included in our calculations. This table shows that the City of Goodyear Park System needs to add some amenities. The red X or green check mark indicate that it meets or does not meet the number of required amenities. This shortfall is primarily due to the rapid growth in the early 2000s, followed by a drop in new construction and associated development impact fees. The community center function provides for indoor space for meetings and recreational opportunities. The function is supplemented by private providers, including the Boys and Girls Club and the YMCA. The City of Goodyear is well served by a robust network of community groups which care for and provide service to your residents, including churches, healthcare providers, and educational institutions. Goodyear Police Department provides a high level of safety which meets national standards established by the International Association of Chiefs of Police. Response times for Priority 1 calls average 4 minutes citywide, and for Priority 2 response calls average 7 minutes citywide. Staffing models target a 30% proactive time for patrol, utilizing 95 patrol officers and 34 civil staff. Goodyear meets the public safety needs of the Sonoran Valley area through a contract with Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. The City of Goodyear Fire Department provides fire and emergency medical services and operates under an intergovernmental agreement with Avondale, Litchfield Park, and the City of Maricopa to provide mutual aid services. Fire stations are provided at a ratio of 1 station per 5 to 10 square miles and 1 station per 10,000 residents. Response time goals are based upon National Fire Protection Association 1710 standard for the organization and deployment of fire suppression operations, emergency medical operations, and special operations to the public by career fire departments. Whew, got that out. Goodyear Fire currently has 109 personnel and 7 volunteers. The City of Goodyear relies on 3 water companies to provide clean, safe drinking water from groundwater sources. The number of wells has increased since the 2003 update from 22 wells to 56. The City of Goodyear is served by 3 wastewater treatment plants with the capacity to meet the needs of the community today and to accommodate for continued growth. Surface runoff is handled by natural washes and is carried by the Agua Fria River and the Gila River. The El Rio Riparian Preserve serves as an experimental surface water pollution removal project, which captures surface water runoff and allows pollutants to be naturally filtered before returning the water to the aquifer. City of Goodyear contracts with Waste Management to provide once-weekly collection of solid waste and once-weekly collection of recyclables, which meets established levels of service requirements. Electricity is provided throughout the City of Goodyear by APS utilizing energy generated from Palo Verde Nuclear Generating Station, as well as augmented by coal-fired generation and solar energy generation outside the local area. A network of transmission lines, hubs, and substations distribute power throughout the city's planning area, ensuring that it is adequate electrical capacity to power residences, commercial uses, manufacturing, and future growth. Are there any questions about the community facilities element? I know it's so informational. Moving on to cost of development. Senate Bill 1525, enacted in 2011, significantly impacts the ability of Goodyear to provide services and amenities. This law changes what can be provided and what fees can be collected. Impact and development fees cannot exceed a proportionate share of the cost, and cost to provide services must be based on the same level of service provided nearby. Impact fees may not be used to meet higher standards or levels of service and may not be used for administrative, maintenance, repair, or operational costs. Many services and facilities are no longer fundable or may be restricted in size and scale. Unnecessary public facilities also include community centers, museums, art and cultural facilities, aquatic centers, riparian areas, and wetlands. The city's ability to issue bonds has been greatly hampered by the decline in assessed valuation. While authorized bonding capacity is available to the city, the inability to raise funds to repay debt is expected to continue into 2013. Overall revenues are expected to be down slightly in fiscal year 12 from fiscal year 11. The general fund is showing signs of improvement with a projected 9.3% increase over FY11. This is still well below the $82 million level achieved in fiscal year 08. Goodyear continues to seek creative alternative funding mechanisms to keep pace with demands previously created by new developments. This slide lists some sources for funding capital improvements. However, some of these may no longer be available to the city due to lack of capacity or project eligibility. Do you have any questions about the cost of development section?
Any questions, Council? No, just go ahead and proceed.
Thank you. The next section is the environmental element. The most significant challenges related to geological conditions and to land development are issues related to flooding, to expansive soils, and to the potential fishing related to drawing down of the water table. The community is characterized by 2 biotic systems, which include 15 endangered species and 2 wildlife habitat corridors. This table shows the test results from the most recent water quality report for Goodyear's city water system. Testing indicates compliance with EPA and Arizona drinking water health standards. Nitrates and arsenic levels are below maximum contaminant levels. This table shows the test results from the most recent water quality report for the Liberty water system. Testing indicates nitrates and arsenic levels are within acceptable limits for maximum contaminant level. Water quality in the northern tier is affected by higher levels of salinity, dissolved solids, and trace elements. Goodyear and Maricopa County continue to be designated as a non-attainment area for carbon monoxide, ozone, and particulate greater than 10 microns in size. The city continues to work with the county to reduce vehicle-caused pollution through methods such as systematic emissions testing, reduced road dust via street sweeping, and continued monitoring of the highway vehicle use, off-highway vehicle use, There are 3 hazardous waste sites currently being rectified within Goodyear. The PGA North Unidynamic Site, the PGA South Goodyear Weapons Loral Facility, and the Western Avenue Plume, also known as the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality Water Quality Assurance Revolving Fund Unspecified Source Site. The groundwater contamination resulting from industrial processes in and around Phoenix Goodyear Airport is ongoing. To date, remediation has included direct removal of contaminated soils, as well as groundwater extraction, filtering, and reinjection. As of 2009, it was estimated it would take between 35 and 50 years to complete remediation of these hazardous waste sites. As stated before, the principal source for energy in Goodyear are nuclear power and fossil fuels, which include petroleum, coal, and natural gas. The City of Goodyear seeks through policy to identify means of encouraging energy-efficient use, increasing the share of power derived from clean and renewable energy sources, and reducing carbon emissions. Any questions?
Questions, Council? No, proceed.
The next section is the design and character section. The northern tier is typical of developments in the early 80s and 90s. This area is characterized by Mediterranean design style. Materials include stucco walls with tile, precast accents, and tile roofs. The street morphology is based on an orthogonal street grid with curvilinear elements and cul-de-sacs typical of late 20th century subdivisions. The typical street section is a 30-foot cross-section with rolled curbs, sidewalk adjacent to the street, large garages dominate the front facades, and water-intensive landscaping with areas of turf fill the front yards. Estrella typifies development south of the Gila River, with most homes built during the late 90s and into the 2000s. Home designs show a greater degree of articulation and higher design standards, including a more diverse palette of colors and materials. The street morphology takes on a much more organic form, following the natural topography of the land. The street section is similar to that of Palm Valley, with wide cross-section, but the landscaping is more appropriate to the Sonoran Desert surroundings. As comparisons, we looked at two subdivisions in other locations. The first example is from McDowell Mountain Ranch in Scottsdale. It features smaller footprints, more two-story plans, desert landscaping, narrower cross-section, and sidewalks on only one side of the street. Another comparable development is the community of Verrado. Houses have smaller footprints. Again, they're taller, but have much smaller yards and greater consideration to creating a friendly streetscape, including front porches, shade, and pedestrian amenities. Narrower street sections are combined with meandering sidewalks and landscape median islands to slow traffic and create a more pedestrian-friendly environment. The existing commercial character of Goodyear consists of a mixture of small to medium-sized office complexes, medium-sized power centers anchored by big box stores, industrial areas consisting of monolithic standalone warehouses and manufacturing buildings, and a few newer mixed-use projects with housing located above commercial retail space. The typical typology includes limited pedestrian amenities with extensive parking. However, the newer projects have a greater variety and quantity of landscaping. Comparable commercial areas such as Kierland Commons and Tempe Town Marketplace are characterized by more pedestrian amenities, including limiting vehicular access, deeper shaded walkways, open storefronts, seating, lighting, lush vegetation, and water elements, all put in place to moderate the hot, dry climate. One of the most significant design elements of Goodyear is its Litchfield Road corridor. Palm trees and citrus serve as markers to connect the history of Goodyear with its future. Are there any questions about the design and character?
No, go ahead and proceed. Thank you.
That brings us to the closing slide. I'd like to recognize the students in the group: Ahmed Abdallah, Raymond Banker.
As your name is called, would you please stand? Would you start at the beginning? So I'm going to make them go through this. Thank you.
Ahmed Abdallah, Raymond Banker, Robin Benning, Victor Castillo, Keith Chamberlain, Matthew Dedamore, Marissa Garnett, Timothy Galloon, Robert Gurney, Kelsey Kirkland, Kirsten Lawton, Yi Lee, Melissa McLaughlin, Joseph Murrow, Joseph Plotz, Hannah Ritchie, Jonah Smith, and Sydney Urias.
I'm going to stop you right there, and I think a really a sounding round of applause for these.
And for our last slide, I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Kim, our professor, Joe Schmitz, and Katie Wilkin from staff, as well as the rest of the City of Goodyear staff. And of course, to thank the City of Goodyear Planning Commission for their time and invaluable assistance. And of course, to you, Madam Mayor and council members, for allowing us to participate in your City of Goodyear 2025 General Plan Update. Thank you very much.
Quite welcome.
Thank you.
With that, council comment? Councilman Gelzer?
I worked on the 2003 general plan, and I was on the committee, and I was on the planning. I think I got on the planning commission after that. And I just want to say what a great job you have done in the well-produced existing condition report and how readable the slides are, even though that we went fast on some of them. But they really make sense, and I think our citizens will really appreciate this. And so as we move forward with the planning process, this is a great base to work from. So thank you very much. And I speak that as both a professional geographer before I retired and as a former planning commissioner. The work you've done is just very, very, very good.
Again, well, I also, as the mayor, would like to thank you for the comprehensive source of information, and we're all really looking forward to having a copy of this when it's all completed. And I just think, do I call you students, graduate students, for pursuing this? Because, and I'm sure you found great value in it also for your future careers. And so again, and thank you for your leadership, both of you, this evening. Any other comments?
Just a thank you.
Well, thank you. Big thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see where we are. Are there any speaker cards? One speaker card.
No speaker cards.
No?
No.
No speaker card. I thought I saw you one thing. Okay, well, so that we're,
Madam Mayor,
yes.
we need to revisit item H, which was the ordinance on the arts and culture. There were actually 2 action items on that particular matter. We only took 1 vote. So we need to go back and...
Oh, so number 2, adopt the, okay.
Yeah. I would actually probably recommend that we take a vote on both of them because I think we're a little unclear on which one we actually voted
Okay,
on. So
do we want to have the city clerk reread it, or?
Yeah, let's have her reread them.
All right,
and
then
2 action
let's
items.
start on the first one, take them separate. Would you please read recommendation 1?
Adopt Resolution 12-1483 declaring as a public record that certain document filed with the city clerk titled Amendment to Chapter 3 of the Goodyear City Code replacing Article 3-9 Percent for Art Program in its entirety.
Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
I heard a motion by Councilman Gelzer and a second by Councilman Stipp. Open for discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell? Aye. Councilmember Gelzer?
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Would the city clerk please read item 2?
Adopt Ordinance 12-1256, amending Chapter 3 of the Goodyear City Code by replacing Article 3-9 Percent for Art Program in its entirety, providing for severability and an effective date.
Could I hear a motion, please, and a second?
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Gelzer, a second by Vice Mayor Osborne. Open for discussion? No discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Campbell? Councilmember Gelzer?
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
All right, both pass. So now we're on to information items. Council, comments and remarks or activities for this week?
I have some.
Councilman Stipp?
I just wanted to update the council. The public safety retirement boards, both police and fire, have been meeting to update the bylaws as a result of the law changes that have taken place over the last year. I just want to let the council know that that we've been moving ahead with that. Thanks to Lynn and the clerk's office, done a great job supporting both of the pension boards. And just to kind of remind everybody that the local pension boards have no control over pension amounts. We're really an arm of the state to get those done, but we're progressing forward, and we're going to be making those changes.
Great. And do we see a report after that? I mean, does that information ever get to it?
Typically not, because it's a separate.
Okay.
It's technically a separate legal entity within the city.
All right. Thank you. Any other reports here?
I do.
Yes. Vice Mayor Osborne?
I have a few things to tell you, so don't throw peanuts at me.
No, I have a few too. so don't worry.
Okay. First of all, I know that quite a few of you have asked me. The Homeless Youth Connection did raise $45,000 at the night of Key to Hope, so just wanted to let you know that. And recently, the Southwest Valley Chamber of Commerce, we had our annual retreat and went over things, and I am now a co-chair with Ryan Lance of the Indians, and we are going to be tackling economic development, and tourism will still be under that. We've had a request from the Millennium FFA Agri Issues team. They won first place in their district, and before they go to state, they are supposed to give a presentation of agribusiness to 5 different areas, and they've asked that they can do it for the city council. So I figured I'd let you guys see what that's all about. And it's one of our schools. I thought I would, many of you know that I've been out seeing the principals and superintendents and college presidents of the schools of our area. I was waiting till the end to kind of give you a wrap-up report on what they've been saying out there. I wanted to thank wholeheartedly Parrish and a lot of the staff, Sandra and Mike Svets and Debbie Deviney, who've helped me with, and volunteers that's helped with the Y2L program. They've been really great, volunteering their time, helping me out with leadership training for teenagers. And I wanted to thank the ballpark. I know the operations group has really, we've opened up the ballpark for uses for different groups, our Little League and adult baseball teams, softball teams, and also the high schools. And I think that's just a really fabulous way that we've been able to use that. Lastly, this is really time appropriate. I haven't really told you much about some of the great speakers I've had from the Flynn Foundation Civic Academy that I'm in. And this weekend, I just said I'd tell you because it was so timely. All day Friday, we discussed healthcare, and we had the CEO of Mayo and the CEO of TGen as 2 of our speakers, and we also had this person didn't really have to do with healthcare, but Terry Bracey, who was Mo Udall's right-hand man. But then we talked Saturday all about immigration. And tomorrow's a big day for our state. We know that. There's going to be the legal battle. And regardless of what side you are on of the issue, I just thought data is always interesting. And I wanted to let you know that from what I had received, Arizona exports $4.5 billion worth of goods to Mexico. There are 235,000 jobs that rely on trade with Mexico in Arizona. And there's a total value of goods traded between Mexico and Arizona of $9.2 billion. So I just thought those were really interesting facts, and going through what we are tomorrow, I just wanted to let you know about that.
Good.
And that's all. Thank you.
Any other? Well, then I'll talk a little bit, because some of you were attended to these. We went to Culver's Restaurant. They're opening in Avondale. One of the reasons we attended is because Culver's would like to come and build in Goodyear. So I have a little assignment for the council. I know we've talked about monument signs and digital signs, and that's a very big concern for that company. And so on your spare time, I'd like you to take a trip over to Avondale Boulevard, and I want you to see the monument sign that has this small area of a digital with it. I think it's in good taste. I think you ought to consider it in changing our signs in Goodyear. As you'll see, it's going to be an attractor to bring businesses in, and I think there are a number of our businesses that could use one of these, and it would increase their sales. So if you would please all go take an unbiased look at this and report back. Yes. Well, I did go in and buy a custard. Anyway, that's your assignment from your mayor, okay? Three Rivers, I attended Three Rivers Historical Society, attended the general plan meeting with staff and developers, and a representative from the Home Builders Association was there, and of course, you know, they're not very popular with us, but he did make some very constructive suggestions of going back to the legislature and changing a few items that will help the cities. So it's really nice to see they recognize that there was some areas that they need to revisit. So that's positive. Westmark's annual economic summit, we all attended that. This is a reorganization of our Westmark. I believe that it showed how successful this reorganization is by the number of people that were there, and I think that it's going to really promote the West Valley, and I think we've taken the right step in reorganizing Westmark. So we have to give a lot of credit to the committee that did this. I attended the MAG TPC meeting. I went to the Arts and Cultures, and I don't know if they're still here. They're not here, and they talked about how the Wild West, how wild the West was. It was a great presentation.
And was it wild?
Well, you know, actually it had quite a bit of law. I have to tell you, we were, you know, I thought the whole Wild West was, you know, guns and cowboys and shooting up people and people. It was very organized, and we had a lot of laws in place very early on. And so it wasn't as wild as Hollywood promotes it. So on Saturday, I did the Mayor's Choice at the car show. It was very, very warm. I saw the Loretanos there, and so that's always fun. And then I just want you to know we had a volunteer, and some of you were there, an evening to honor all of the citizens that spend thousands of hours of volunteering in Goodyear. And while your name was called, you have an award, but you weren't there because you had another engagement. But thank you. I didn't realize how many hours that you have volunteered in Goodyear. It's pretty outstanding. So we couldn't do it. We couldn't do what we do without the citizens and without the volunteers and all departments. So it was a real honor, and I'm hoping the news media will cover that a little bit because that's a good story. It tells how much the citizens of Goodyear care about their city. These are the people that are not always complaining. These are the people that actually do something in Goodyear, and so I would like them highlighted when you get an opportunity. So now with that, I've talked enough. I'm going to turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I have a couple of items to bring to your attention. The first is our fleet department was recognized once again as one of the 100 best fleets in the nation. This is the third year in a row, so it's a big deal. This was done by Government Fleet Magazine. We're one of 5 departments in Arizona that's received this recognition. And it's really the folks at the staff that work there, so I'm going to call them out by name just real quickly. Richard Sweepy, Mike Hewells, Beth Casillas, Phil Durbin, Richard Landell, and Jerome Onstadt. So they are the ones behind the scenes that really work hard and bring this recognition to us each year, so congratulations to them.
Can you just kind of, because I talked to you earlier today about you know, everybody says a great fleet, so they're just thinking, oh, you guys have the Cadillac of the fleet out there. But what goes into that award? There are specific things that show how well run the department is, and so I just kind of review some of the criteria that get you that award, because I think there might be some misunderstanding of that title.
There are several, so let our chief expert talk about that.
Thank
Mark,
you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure about the chief expert part, but I'll give it a try. My name is Mark Flynn. I'm a deputy director in Public Works, and I have the privilege of having fleet be one of the divisions that's assigned to me. Government and Fleet Magazine recognizes on an annual basis the top 100 fleets within the country, and they use a selection criteria of a variety of components that make up the maintenance program, the operations, how the fleet is managed in terms of its repair, how information is tracked and information is provided to help folks manage the things that they're doing. The criteria is presented to a board of 5 individuals who serve as a national recognition committee and a selection committee to identify those components. They evaluate, vote, and then identify their top 100. Also, they'll identify honorable mention, and I think the third category is fleets of noteworthy designation. Fleet in the city of Goodyear has received this. This is the third year in a row. We're quite proud of that achievement. And as the city manager mentioned, only one of 5 in the state to be recognized with that designation. So it's for their operations regarding to management of the fleet, how they go about recommending and facilitating the replacement with your blessing from a budgetary perspective, and then the information that they can return back as well. There's a lengthy criteria that we can provide you in detail, but I don't want to take up any more of that time unless there's specific questions. I'm quite proud of that group as an organization.
You should be. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
City Manager?
Yes, thank you. One other item, just as a reminder, we have a public budget meeting next week. It's actually on May the 2nd. It will take place in these chambers at 6 o'clock. And the real purpose of it is to do, it's our fiscal 12-13 budget preparation. We're going to take and synthesize and summarize the many work sessions that we've had with council, present that to the public that will be in attendance, and we anticipate probably a 30-40 minute presentation, and then that will be followed by questions. We'll receive questions from the audience, and we'll answer those at that time. But the goal is one, to be transparent with the budget, to the direction that we're heading with this, and the third thing is as we hear input from the public, we'll certainly bring that back to council. This will culminate then on May the 7th when we bring a draft budget before the council, and certainly then that will, the next major step after that is a tentative budget adoption, which is May 21st. So we're working toward this, but we feel it's very important to have this public budget meeting as well.
Councilman Loretano?
I just want to ask on that, will that be televised on and then put on the website so we can watch it later? Because I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. I would like to see that, like our council meetings.
Yes, we will absolutely look at that. It will be held here, so we likely would have that capability. So thank you.
Is that it?
Just one item of follow-up, and that is we'll be looking at special accounts as it relates to establishing those for fundraising activities, specific commissions and or other efforts. I want to do some evaluation, some analysis, and then bring back what the pros and cons are for different actions. So that's a one follow-up item that we have out of the council meeting.
I appreciate it. Well, yes, you have a question?
I have just on something else. Can I ask him a question?
Of course you can ask a question.
I just wondered, this is something that a couple of residents have asked me, like actually several. Up by the Safeway, they were building a Walgreens up in Estrella, and it seems to everything has halted, and nobody knows why. So I was just wondering if the city knew what has happened there.
Council member, not off the top of my head, we'll definitely find out what's happening with the construction.
Thank you.
And that's Walgreens up by the Safeway.
Up by the Safeway up in Estrella. It just seems to have stopped for the last month or so. No one's there.
Okay.
Vice Mayor Osborne?
You may have sent a yellow paper on this, but just to follow up that I've received notice that there's a petition going on up in Estrella regarding the APS lines and Newland, and I would just like send me again information regarding it, please. Thank you.
Is this the same one that we had the discussion over that's been protested in the past?
Yes, there is information on it, and we'll get that back out.
Okay, so it's come back again?
This is on I think the latest is I believe it's a transmission line, the 69 kV line is what you're referring to.
I'd appreciate that.
Okay.
Councilman Campbell?
City Manager, I was asked a question earlier in the week if you could find out where the request is for our Burger King across the street from City Hall, their request on changing the color outside. They seem to think that the city is holding them up, and I don't know, in fact, that's true, so I don't want to, I'm just a customer, but they know who I am, and they asked me if I knew anything about it, and I told them I knew nothing, but I'd ask. So some requests, they want to updo the outside. They're already doing the inside, remodeling the inside, but I guess Burger King is changing the colors outside, probably similar to Chili's. You know how Chili's put the chili out, the pepper out, the red pepper. So if you could find out, I'd sure appreciate it.
We will. We'll find out where that's at in
Okay.
their process. That's
Thank
Burger King on Litchfield Road, just
Right,
north of
right
City
in the
Hall.
Fry Shopping Center by Osborne Jewelry.
Yes, they've come in.
Home of the Whopper.
Yeah, yes, right, thank you.
Any other? All right, just to announce, we have to go back into meeting. We haven't furnished our work session because I saw some of you looking like, oh, I'm going home. I'm going to make this, but I'm not sure how much longer, so I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Do you need to take a break? All right, I'm going to give you 5 minutes, so at 8 o'clock if you'll come back. So with that, this meeting is adjourned.